and money's still tight, even with the inheritance. We were hoping maybe you could handle your family's portion. You know, flights, hotels, tickets, food. You make good money at the hospital, and you don't have as many expenses as we do. I should have recognized the red flags right away. Should have asked more questions. I should have believed my instincts when they warned me something felt strange. But I was so pleased about finally being able to provide a beautiful trip for my children that I overlooked all warning signs. How much are we talking about? I inquired. Well, for both our families, probably around $12,000 total. But think about it. Disney World. The kids would have memories to last a lifetime. $12,000. That was roughly half of what I'd saved after 3 years of diligent planning. But Freya was correct. Memories are priceless, and after assisting them during a difficult time, they would undoubtedly want to make this memorable for all of the children. Okay, I said. Let me check my finances, but I think I can make it work. The following few weeks were a blur of planning. Freya handled everything. Booking flights, accommodations, dinner reservations, and quick passes for rides. She insisted on handling all of the specifics because she had more time for research. I was working additional shifts to meet the expenses, so I was glad to let her handle everything. Red flag number 2. When I asked for the itinerary, Freya was hazy. Don't worry about it. I've got everything covered. Just bring spending money and your credit cards in case we need backup for emergencies. Red flag number 3. When I mentioned the trip to my mother, she became quiet. Are you sure about this, Mary? Freya mentioned something about this being for her kids specifically. I brushed off Mom's fears. Surely Freya would not manipulate me in that way. We were sisters. This was going to be a wonderful family bonding opportunity. The night before we left, I was packed when Elias entered my room, literally jumping with enthusiasm. Mommy, do you think we'll get to meet Mickey Mouse? I hope so, buddy. Will we get to go on Space Mountain? Tommy at school said it's the best ride ever. We'll try to go on lots of rides, sweetheart. Elsie, my 5-year-old, clambered onto my bed, clutching a toy Minnie Mouse. Are we going to stay in the Princess Castle? We're staying at a hotel near the parks, baby girl. It'll be magical. I should have been suspicious when Freya booked us into separate hotels. The kids will have more fun if they can have sleepovers with their cousins, she told me. It seemed reasonable at the time. The morning of departure, I piled my children into my car, drove to the airport, and met Freya's family at the gate. The kids were all chatting eagerly, and Beckett seemed happier than I had seen him in months. Thank you so much for making this possible, Beckett whispered softly, drawing me aside. I know Freya told you about the inheritance, but honestly, we're still pretty tight financially. This trip means everything to the kids. Something in his tone made me pause, but I dismissed my misgivings. We were in the airport. The kids were thrilled. There was no going back now. The flight was the first indication of what was to follow. Freya had managed to acquire upgraded tickets for her family, but my children and I stayed in our original economy seats 5 rows back. When I questioned this, Freya simply shrugged. We got lucky with a last-minute upgrade. Don't worry, it's just a 3-hour flight. I watched my children press their faces against the tiny economy windows while their cousins stretched out in upgraded seats, receiving additional snacks and attention. Elias stared at me, perplexed. Mommy, why aren't we sitting with Aunt Freya? Sometimes flights get mixed up, buddy. We'll all be together at Disney. Oh, how naive I was. We arrived in Orlando, and I believed we'd all take the same conveyance to our hotels. Wrong again. Freya had arranged for a ride service for her family, while my children and I boarded a shuttle bus at the hotel with several other families who were crowded and fatigued. The next red flag almost struck me in the face. We were not staying at the same resort. Freya and her family were in Disney's Grand Floridian Resort and Spa, which is one of the most expensive Disney hotels. My children and I were staying at a modest hotel around 15 minutes from the parks. Why aren't we staying together? I inquired when Freya called that evening. Oh, the Grand Floridian was completely booked when I tried to add more rooms. But don't worry, your hotel has a shuttle to the parks. We'll meet up tomorrow, bright and early. That night, I put my children into the double beds of our plain hotel room, knowing that their relatives were likely enjoying luxury facilities. Elias was disappointed but tried to remain brave. It's okay, Mommy. Tomorrow we'll see Mickey Mouse. That's right, baby. Tomorrow will be magical. The next morning, at 7 a.m., I loaded my children into the hotel shuttle to meet Freya's family at the Magic Kingdom entrance. They arrived 20 minutes late, having casually walked directly from their resort hotel to the park. Sorry we're late. The monorail was delayed, Freya replied happily, ignoring the fact that my children had been waiting in the Florida heat. And that's when the real nightmare began. Freya had printed out a thorough itinerary, but not for our entire family. It was carefully tailored to her children's interests and ages. Every FastPass reservation was for rides that Violet and Mason wanted to try. Every character lunch was scheduled around their nap hours. Every plan revolved around her family, with the expectation that my children and I would simply go along and be grateful. First stop, Dumbo the Flying Elephant, Freya said, consulting her clipboard. Violet and Mason love this ride. Elias raised his hand nervously. Can we go on Space Mountain? Freya gave him barely a glance. That's not until later, if we have time. Today is all about the little kids' rides. She referred to her children as little kids. My 7-year-old Elias was older than her kid Mason. However, the entire vacation was tailored to Mason's preferences. The first indication of Freya's genuine attitude came during lunch. We'd been wandering around Magic Kingdom for 4 hours, following Freya's strict schedule and visiting every attraction that her children desired, while mine patiently waited their turn for something more age-appropriate. When we sat down at a character dining establishment, Freya quickly handed me the bill. You've got this one, right? I mean, you said you'd handle meals. The total bill was $280 for the 6 of us. I paid without protest, despite Freya ordering the most costly items on the menu for her family and recommending that my kids share a meal because they are small. After lunch, Elsie began crying. She was exhausted, overwhelmed, and eager to see the princesses. There was a character meet and greet line nearby with Anna and Elsa, her personal favorites. I asked Freya, "Can we please get in line?" Elsie's been waiting all day to meet them. Freya looked at her schedule and grimaced. That's going to mess up our FastPass times. Violet doesn't really care about Frozen anymore. She's into Moana now. Maybe later. Later never arrived. We spent the entire day following Freya's program, and every time I offered anything my children wanted to do, it was ignored as not fitting into the timetable or not appealing to everyone. By the evening, Elias was fatigued and frustrated. We'd been in Disney World for 8 hours, and he hadn't gotten to go on a single ride that he was enthused about. Elsie was having a breakdown because we went past the princess meet and greet area 4 times without stopping. Tomorrow will be better, I promised them as we boarded the shuttle back to our budget hotel. We'll do more things you want to do. Freya called that night with the next day's plans. It was more of the same. Every activity was picked particularly for her children's amusement, with the expectation that my children would be content simply to be involved. Day 2 was rather worse. We began at Animal Kingdom, following another of Freya's tight timetables. Her kids wanted to do the first 4 attractions, while mine followed behind, wondering when their turn would come. The breaking point occurred at lunchtime. We were eating at an expensive African-themed restaurant, and I was handed the bill again, this time for $310. However, that wasn't the worst part. Elsie, my adorable 5-year-old, had been carrying her teddy Minnie Mouse all day, hoping to get it autographed by the characters. She'd been so patient and wonderful, despite not being able to do any of the things she'd been fantasizing about. As we finished our meal, she gazed up at Freya with huge, eager eyes. Aunt Freya, when will it be our turn to pick what we do? Freya barely glanced up from her phone, where she was checking the next FastPass time. What do you mean? Elias and I haven't gotten to pick any rides or characters yet. When is it our turn? Freya gave my daughter a chilly, dismissive look that made me almost furious that a 5-year-old had dared to inquire about when she may be able to enjoy her vacation. This trip isn't about you either, Freya stated firmly. It's for Violet and Mason. They've been through a lot this year with their dad losing his job. They deserve this vacation. Elsie's face fell, but she fought back tears. But we're at Disney World too. Freya's voice became sharper. Your mom has a good job. You two get things all the time. Violet and Mason needed this trip more than you do. My blood pressure was increasing, but before I could intercede, Elias spoke out. His 7-year-old voice was tiny and unclear. When will it be our turn? We've been here 2 days and haven't done anything we wanted. That's when Freya delivered the words that altered everything, revealing exactly who my sister was. She looked right at my children, my babies, who had done nothing but be patient, kind, and hopeful, and she uttered something that still makes my blood boil. Your turn, honestly? Some kids get Disney trips, and some kids just tag